Alright everybody, this is Saturday, November 30th. Hard to believe tomorrow, Sunday, is December 1st. This video is to thank Ron for the video he posted on his YouTube channel about the Stynylrez primer problem I was having. He demonstrated with the black primer he has, and what he has is setting on his air compressor, and he primered up his Warbird. Thumbs up to you, Ron, you did a great job. I'm going to show, I've got 4 airbrushes. I've got my primer on my workbench, plus the Ultimate airbrush thinner that I got from Ultimate Modeling Products. They're in UK. You got to go check out their website. They got a lot of products, and I'm not knocking that airbrush thinner. Sometimes you got to dilute, sometimes you got to thin stuff out. We all at model builders do have to thin out our paints, no matter what they are, unless they're lacquer. Now, I've been airbrushing since 2010. The model shop that in the area I live is no longer open. They were open for 22 years and they closed down like 3 years ago. There's only one model shop left, about less than a 10-minute drive from my house. Once they fold up, close the doors, I'll have to get everything offline. But I did take a basic class back in 2010 to learn how to airbrush. I always wanted to do it. I saw everybody doing it on the internet, even that far back, and I always wanted to get an airbrush, get an air compressor, and learn how to airbrush. And then this was back in April 2010, and then I took an advanced class to learn how to mask things off, how to thin paints out. I was one in the class that asked 20 questions all the time, just to learn the basics and other steps of airbrushing. So I've got my Stynylrez gray primer on my workbench with my 4 airbrushes. I got 4 airbrushes. I'll show my air compressor. It's a dual piston. I've had it for 9 years, going on 10. It's still like brand new. I take care of my stuff, and I'll show all that here in a minute. But again, I'd like to thank Ron for demonstrating the primer. He also mentioned that I might have got a bad batch. I've had my primer for way too long. I've got 2 bottles. The first bottle is almost gone since I got this thinner. It's really working, and I'm happy with the results. I think they're 16-ounce bottles. They weren't cheap, and I liked the primer. It beats going out and buying cans from Advanced Auto Parts and Home Depot or Lowe's. A lot of model builders out there go out and buy the cans and primer up their models, and that's fine. Whatever works for you is fine. I like to stretch my dollar. I like to get a primer that's going to last me a long time, because I mean, depending on what you're building, what you're doing, like the Sea View that's still in my spray booth, I gonna double check everything, make sure everything looks good. I cleaned it up a couple days ago, so it's almost ready for some paint. I can't wait till I get that Sea View done and I can put it in my display case. So I'm rattling off. I'll show everybody what I've got on my workbench. I'll pause the camera for a second and I'll be right back. Alright everybody, back on all my airbrushes. The first airbrush I picked up was the Badger 155. Awesome airbrush. I used it for probably 4 or 5 years, and then I stepped up. I did buy an extra needle for it, never had to use it. You can see it right here. I like the Badger. Covers well. It does a great job. And it's kind of in retirement right now. Eventually, maybe down the road, I'll pull it back out and use it. But that was my first airbrush. My second airbrush was this one right here. Got the trigger on it. I like it. It's really awesome. It's a pain in the neck to clean because it's side fed, and when I clean it, I got to unscrew this here, clean the whole thing, and it can be a pain in the neck sometimes. It's not so bad. I'm not knocking it. And this model is let's see if I got it right. This model of the Grex is the TS3. This was my second airbrush. My third one I picked up about 2 years ago is this one here. And this one, I think, this one is the XGI2 top feed. I like it. It's really awesome. That's the route I should have went before I bought this one here. This one's okay, but these are so much easier to clean. Don't take me long to clean my airbrush out. And this was the one I just bought about a year ago. And this one is the TG3, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, this one's the TG3, and it's awesome. I use this. I got a 0.5 millimeter needle in this one. They all come, I think, with 0.2 millimeter needles, all the Grex, and then you got to buy them separately, of course, and they're not cheap. I bought 3 millimeter. And I bought the 5 millimeter. I think I got two 5 millimeter needles for my Grex airbrushes, which is good. And that's it. That's all my airbrushes, other than my Awada that I showed in previous videos that I have too for larger kits to airbrush. But that's it. That's what I have in my inventory. You know, I started with the Badger, then I moved down and got this, and then I bought this one, and then this is the last one I picked up, and they're awesome. I know everybody's got their own taste in airbrushes, but I'm not knocking these airbrushes. That they're awesome, they're durable, they're not really that cheap, but they're worth the money if you want to really get you a good airbrush. Like I said, I'm not knocking all the other brands out there. Whatever you're comfortable with, that's fine. Now over here is the Stynylrez. This is the one that's really thick. I've got probably about that much primer left, maybe a little less, and it's thick. I would demonstrate it and show how thick it is, but it is, guys. I'm having problems with it coming out of my airbrush, and I've done my homework on YouTube and saw guys having the same problems, and they thinned it out with this thinner right here, Ultimate Airbrush Thinner from Ultimate Modeling Products. I'll put that on this video, but here's the website. Maybe you can just pause it. They got a lot of awesome stuff. I got 3 bottles, and with shipping was $11. It come up to like $58 for all 3 bottles, but well worth it. If I can get double this out of thinning it out, I'm getting double the primer, and there's nothing wrong with that. Here's the new bottle of primer that I have. I can't tell you how long I've had it. I've never opened it, as you can see here. If I'm not mistaken, I think it is 16 ounce. It is 16 ounce. Eventually down the road, they've got it black now, like Ron did in his video. They got white. I think they've got other primers. Now I have these 2 little bottles here. They're 2 ounce, and they're light flesh. I bought these 2 for my figure kits. We got one open, one not. Now I shake this up and put it right in my airbrush, no problems. with this Stynylrez. Maybe Ron's right. Maybe the primer is too thick, and something through their quality control, if they have that, overlooked it. I mean, all this stuff's got to be mass produced, but this works fine. I've got a lot of figure kits down the road I want to build, and I've never had any problems with these little bottles of Stynylrez light flesh. And what can I say? That part of it works, and I have no problem thinning this out, guys. You know, it just it still works. Down here is my dual piston air compressor. I've had it, like I said, for 9 going on 10 years. Awesome little air compressor. It's still like brand new. Up here is where I adjust my air pressure. Real easy to do. Here's where you adjust it. And every time I use the Stynylrez, I have it at 30. I really don't want to go any higher. On the label on the primer, it says up to 30 psi, and that's what I normally set it. When I'm running Tamiya paints through my airbrush, I always drop it down to 20. All the model builders out there that I've seen use Tamiya, they recommend 18 psi to 20, and it's never failed me when I went to that route, going 20 psi. Air compressor is awesome. I bought that at a place called Pack of Tans. It's like a craft store, and wasn't cheap. I paid like $300 for it, but it's dual piston. It's awesome. The guy that I went to class and learned how to airbrush back in 2010, he had one, and he had his for like, then he had it for like 12 years. Never had any problems with it, so I picked up the same air compressor. There's my California air compressor right there for my Iwata. It's like 60 decibels. It's about one of the quietest air compressors you can pick up. You can go to their website too, check it out. California Air Tools, I think it is. CaliforniaAirTools.com. I picked that up probably 3 years ago. The life on that's like 3,000 plus hours. I'm lucky if I used an hour time on that air compressor, so it's probably going to outlive me. But back on what Ron did, like I said, you did an awesome job, and I wanted to show everybody what I have, what I started out with, the Badger 155, then I stepped up and bought this one. Then I bought this airbrush, and then I finally bought this one. If I would have bought this from the very beginning, I probably wouldn't have bought these two at all. But you never can have enough airbrushes in your arsenal. So I'm gonna let everybody get another look at my mug shot. So again, I'd like to thank Ron for what he's done, and I'll probably post this video up on my YouTube channel sometime today or tomorrow, and I'll talk with everybody later.